I believe the key to drawing shoes well is to genuinely be interested in them. I personally love drawing shoes, and when I thought about why, I realized it's simply because I love shoes. But if my advice was just you need to love shoes, that wouldn't be very helpful, would it? So in this video, I want to share how I approach drawing shoes as someone who enjoys it. Are you ready? Let's get started. Before we dive into drawing shoes, let's first go over some basics about drawing feet. When I draw feet, I imagine 3 triangles and 1 rectangle in my head. Here are a few important things to keep in mind when drawing feet. The heel is positioned behind the ankle. When standing, feet don't point straight up. They angle slightly forward. Instead of making the heel perfectly round, giving it a slight angular shape makes it look more natural. Do not forget to include the arc of the feet. Toes should be slightly tilted upward. Okay, as a general rule, the length of the foot is about 3 times the length of the ankle. Now, of course, this can vary depending on the person though. Now, let's try drawing the same shoe from different angles. The triangle method I mentioned earlier is super handy. It works no matter what angle you are drawing from. Of course, this requires some spatial awareness, but as a single guide, it's very effective. If you like, give it a try. To draw shoes well, you first need to be able to draw feet well. If you struggle with drawing shoes, I recommend properly sketching the shape of the foot first before adding the shoe. Once the foot is drawn, we can start adding the shoe by thinking about the thickness of the fabric. Let's go with a low-cut sneaker for this example. Here's how I usually approach it. Start with the upper fabric of the shoe. Next, draw the heel area. Finally, add the toe section. Then add the sole of the shoe, and it's done. The same method applies from other angles as well. Always start with the upper part of the shoe. This is important. You can draw the heel or toe section in any order. Most shoes have a slightly lifted toe, so when drawing them from the front, the center will curve inward a bit. Even for tricky angles, straightening with the upper part makes the structure easier to understand. At this stage, be mindful of depth and volume. I almost forgot an important tip. Draw a center line of the foot sketch. This helps you identify where the middle of the shoe should be. The blue arrow here shows where the edge of the shoe would be when viewed from the side. Okay, now that the rough shape is ready, let's move on to the line art. When I use a reference image while drawing, I tend to copy the design exactly. So after understanding the structure, I try to draw without reference. Of course, if you're practicing, it's totally fine to reference photos. By the way, I personally think sneakers are the foundation of all shoe types. Once you understand their structure, you can modify them into different styles like boots or other variations. Even when the angle changes, the process stays the same. Keep perspective in mind, follow your guidelines, adjust the shoe fabric thickness accordingly. For example, the toe cap should fully cover the toes. If you've sketched out the foot correctly, you can easily figure out how big the shoes should be. Always be mindful of fabric thickness, of course. Adding the shadow to the toe section instantly makes it look more like a real shoe. From the back view, the same rules apply. Speaking of details, just like I mentioned in my clothing tutorial, adding a stitch line to shoes at an angle makes them look way more realistic. I'm not too happy with how the ankle looks here. Okay. The shape of the ankle bone is actually really important when making a shoe look convincing. Now, let's put both shoes together. Copy-paste so it's a bit unnatural, but okay, looks like it. Earlier, I mentioned that sneakers are the base for all shoe designs, but there's one exception. It's high heels. Personally, I found them tricky because there's nothing covering the top of the foot. Honestly, if someone asked me how to draw high heels well, I'd have a hard time explaining it, I believe. At that point, it's really about studying the form of the foot. See this area, the curve of the foot arc is so elegant. If you focus on how narrow this section is, it might help make high heels easier to draw, maybe. Some high heels have slightly lifted toes, but for this example, I'll keep them flat on the ground. It might help to just memorize how this shape looks. In the end, drawing high heels comes down to practice, I think. Personally, I love drawing them from the back view. Understanding their structure and drawing them intentionally is a little more difficult. Take a look at various high heels brands and study their shapes. The key to drawing high heels is the shape of the foot arc. For me, if something looks off, it's usually because this shape is wrong. Oh, one more small detail. When wearing high heels, the top of the foot swells slightly. It's a tiny detail, but if you want realism, keep it in mind. So that was my shoe drawing tutorial. Shoes are tricky, but they're also really fun to draw. At the end of the day, I believe the best way to improve is to have passion for the subject. Maybe this video wasn't the most practical tutorial, but I hope you could feel my love for shoes at least. And I hope you grow to love drawing shoes too. Once that happens, I promise you'll improve quickly, very quickly. By the way, I'm actually not great at drawing feet. Okay, so thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next video. Have a great drawing shoes day. Bye bye.